Okay, I think I am going to get started.
Got a couple
Um,
more people, Mona. We've got about
oh,
3 people coming in.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you just wanna maybe
Yeah,
give
I'll
them a
just hang on
second
just a second.
to
Yeah, I did start recording, but that's okay.
no problem. There we go. Okay.
I always wanted to be a DJ. This is my time. As we wait for the participants, sit back and relax and enjoy some music, everybody.
Rain turns the sand into mud. Wind turns the trees into bone. Stars turning high above.
All right. Looks like everybody's in, Mona, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Okay, well, hello everyone. Thank you for giving us your time by attending this workshop this evening. I'm not sure if your microphones and videos have been turned off, but as Maria Rosa said, usually we turn them off for your privacy as we record, but you're welcome to have them on if you want them on, or to keep them turned off if you want them off, if you want them off. So we will be recording tonight's presentation, but we'll stop recording for the discussion and conversation at the end, and you're welcome to unmute and turn on your video at that point if you wish. We want to ensure that you feel safe and supported here in this evening. So please note that the crisis line is available through the chat feature, as well as ROC's access line should you have any questions about their services. We'll be interacting with you via the chat feature, as you can see. You can send a question or share your thoughts for the presenters by messaging our chat moderator, who is Darlene for this evening. As many of you already know, Darlene is the program supervisor for Halton Families for Families. We will have some time at the end of the presentation, probably around 8 p.m. for questions and conversation that can happen. I'm going to turn it over to Darlene for now, and she will be reciting the land acknowledgement for us.
Well, thanks so much, Mona. So we're honored to welcome you to this evening. And we invite you to take a moment right now to allow yourself to fully arrive and allow all the dust to settle in your mind, bringing your attention to your body, your breath, this present moment. Inhale a deep breath and exhale it slowly. You're here and welcome. We would like to acknowledge that we're meeting on Aboriginal lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous people from the beginning. As settlers, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Neutral, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contributions to the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples that have made both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and our province and country as a whole. Thanks so much, Mona. And thank you all for being here tonight.
Okay, so again, welcome everyone, and thank you for registering for this workshop with us. I'm Mona, and I'm a volunteer at Halton Families for Families. Halton Families for Families, as many of you know, is a community collaborative, and we're here to support you and your family. We're volunteer parents and caregivers who partner with community organizations to organize events, workshops, and socials where you can connect with other families and feel supported and comfortable as a family. Please also feel free to check out our website, www.haltonfamiliesforfamilies.com. Today, I'm honored to introduce our workshop, Introduction to Active Parenting. And this is because this evening's presenters are our very own Maria Rosa Gavea and Christine Sterling Charette. Maria Rosa has been a volunteer with Halton Families for 7 years, and you may recognize her as she's usually the co-facilitator and the lead for these workshops. This evening, however, she'll be presenting active parenting as she attended the 6-week session a few years ago. She was so moved by the content that she began facilitating groups for parents and caregivers. She's a parent to 3 kids, ages 17, 19, and 21. And she still uses many of the active parenting concepts to help build the relationships with her own family dynamic. Christine has also been a volunteer with Halton Families for 4 years now. You may also recognize her from a previous workshop on screen addiction that she delivered last summer. Christine joins Maria Rosa in finding the content of active parenting extremely relevant to the struggles and joys of being a parent today. Christine has been delivering active parenting workshops for the past 2 years, and as a mother of 4 children herself, she continues to learn from parents during workshop discussions. Christine and Maria Rosa, welcome. We're so happy to have you join us for our workshop this evening. Take it away.
Thank you, Mona. So thanks for the introduction. Maria Rosa and I have been looking forward to introducing active parenting for some time now. Together, we've been running active parenting for Halton Families for the past 2 years, I'd say. It's a workshop that we found resonates well with our own lives as parents, and of course, being able to share some of our own challenges as we ourselves navigate the demands and the responsibilities, and also the joys that we experience as parents. So the workshop, we find, is a great opportunity for all parents to learn, to share in our collective wisdom as parents together, and to also recognize that we're not alone in the struggles. And as parents, we love our kids, we want the best for them, and we want to do the best for them, but sometimes we feel stuck. And I'm a mom of 4 kids, as Mona has mentioned, and I absolutely have felt stuck sometimes. I find the workshop is a great tool for all of us. We do need to make sure to preface, though, that this workshop is not meant to make us feel like we're not doing a good job, that we're doing anything wrong. It's really meant to provide us with an opportunity to reflect on the way we do things. And the fact that we're all here together talking about parenting demonstrates that we care about parenting, that we are doing the best that we can with the situation we are presented with. And this year has hit us with a curveball for all of us. It's been hard for our kids with COVID. It's been hard for work. It's been hard on our relationships and parenting too. So before we delve into parenting, we need to just remember to be kind to ourselves, especially to ourselves. So as I move into the next slide, Maria Rosa, I'm just going to talk a little bit about active parenting and what it is. It's a parent education program that was first developed in 1983. It has been revised and updated through the years, and it's in its 4th edition. It's a 6-week program, a program that parents meet together. And of course, in this case, we have to do it virtually, and we do it for 2 hours every week. The workshop's developed with lots of opportunities for parents to interact, to share ideas, to reflect together on all sorts of issues that are regarding parenting. We watch videos, we discuss, we do some family enrichment activities, and we do that. Those are activities that we can do, that you can do with your families at home. And everyone receives a parent guide as well as a workbook that's free of charge. So the workshop will cover a lot of different kinds of topics. We may look at how the brain functions, how it develops, how children develop, and how this development also affects behavior and our children's ability to even make decisions. So this is an overview of the 6 sessions. It begins with defining what is active parenting during week 1. Session 2 really looks at how to presents how to communicate effectively and actively with our kids and how to improve their cooperation. Session 3 is about presenting ways of encouraging our children to be responsible and to talk about methods that are used to discipline our children. Week 4 really looks at how to build courage in our children and ultimately their self-esteem. And this evening, actually, we've chosen to talk specifically about that. It's actually something we talk about in session 4. And so we'll be talking to you about ways of encouraging our children by building on their strengths. And it's part of week 4. Week 5 is where we would talk about how to better understand unwanted behaviors in our kids. And we present ways of how to redirect problematic behavior. And then on week 6, we'll be ending with looking at 7 smart strategies for school success. So while Maria Rose is getting the next slide ready, she's going to prepare actually a video. We thought it'd be the best way to introduce the active parenting workshop is to present actual parts of the workshop. So Maria Rosa, while she's setting that up, I just want to explain what it's all about. So this is an introductory video we present in the first session. And before we start it, I want to introduce you our narrator. And we see Gerardo de Villa, the video narrator, throughout all the videos, throughout the workshop. And I also want to introduce Dr. Michael Popkins. He's the author of Active Parenting. So let's take a look at that first video.
Maria Rosa, we can't hear
Maria
the
Rosa, yeah.
audio. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
No problem.
Michael Popkin. It was Dr. Popkin's vision of using video to enhance parenting education that led to the first active parenting program in 1983. Now, in its fourth edition, Active Parenting continues its leadership role in parenting education with online courses, training programs for leaders, and an innovative eye on the future. Dr. Popkin, the author of a dozen programs and over 30 books, has traveled throughout the world talking to parents and educators about the importance of parenting education and has appeared on hundreds of television shows, including CNN and Oprah. And like most of us, he is also a parent. Dr. Michael Popkin.
Hello and welcome to Active Parenting. Your commitment of time and energy in being here says a lot about how seriously you take the job of parenting. And for that, I congratulate you. When I talk to groups of parents and professionals, I always point out that parenting is both important and difficult. Important to the future of any society, and difficult in that today's complex world creates many problems that didn't exist in generations past. And like any job that's both important and difficult, parenting deserves training and support. Now, thanks to organizations and individuals like the ones making your program possible, parenting education is being made available to more and more parents. And there's a bonus to the time you invest in learning to be an active parent. As one parent put it, active parenting not only helped me become a better parent, it helped me become a more successful person. You'll be able to apply many of the same skills you learn in this program to solving and preventing problems in your life outside of parenting as well. So have a great time and keep an open mind for new ideas. I'll look forward to joining you again from time to time throughout the program.
Now let's see what's in store for us in the coming 6 sessions. In session 1, Active Parent, you'll discover the skills and qualities of character your children will need to survive and thrive in the 21st century. You'll learn about different parenting styles and why it's important to be an active leader in your family instead of a reactive follower. You'll also learn about how a child's brain develops, the secret of building a strong parent-child relationship based on mutual respect, and how a simple yet powerful method using choices can help you sidestep many of those angry conflicts that parents and kids get into. In session 2, Cooperation and Communication, you'll learn how to use the inevitable problems that families face as opportunities to teach cooperation, responsibility, and other important family values. You'll also learn communication skills that help you provide support and guidance when it's needed, while still encouraging your children to develop their own problem-solving skills. In session 3, Responsibility and Discipline, you'll learn powerful methods of discipline that not only redirect your children toward positive behavior, but also teach them responsibility for their actions in the process. In session 4, Building Courage and Self-Esteem, you'll learn effective methods for encouraging these essential qualities and how they help your children avoid failure cycles and move into success cycles now and throughout their lives. In session 5, Understanding and Redirecting Misbehavior, you will learn the 4 reasons kids most often misbehave and how to use your new active parenting skills to redirect your children towards positive behavior. We'll pay particular attention to handling power struggles and anger for both parents and children. Finally, in session 6, Active Parenting for School Success, we'll present 7 smart things you can do to help your children succeed in school. And you'll learn important steps for having a productive talk with your children about tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs. If this sounds like a full 6 sessions, you're right. And to get the most out of the experience, it is essential that you keep up with your reading and home activities each week. This will reinforce and extend what you learn in your group sessions and help you apply the information at home where it counts the most.
So thank you, Christine, for introducing that video. And so that was a little sample of what the videos will be like. We're going to be showing a couple more through this workshop. Being parents and invested in our kids is what brought us here. I think this quote sums it up, doesn't it? The funny thing about kids is they are the reason we lose it and the reason we hold it together. Let's take a few minutes and using the chat feature, please share what parenting means to you. As a parent or caregiver, we wear many hats and often change them on a dime. We have many roles to play. Feelings about parenting are ever changing, but I think we can all agree that the emotions and all of that is based in love for our children, but parenting can mean feeling so many different emotions, sometimes all at once. Especially now when our world and regular routines and resources of support can be unstable. So if you have some ideas around what parenting means to you and you'd like to put them in the chat, and then we can share them with the group. Maybe some things to think about are what feelings about parenting do you have? What kinds of hats do you find yourself wearing? I know for mine, it's the taxi driver, right? You're driving them everywhere and having to be on all the time. Sometimes I feel very insecure about my parenting. Other days, I feel quite confident in what I'm doing. Some days I don't know what I'm doing at all. That's all part of being a parent and this incredible journey. Darlene, is there any comments that you would like to share or from the participants?
Yeah, so we've got two. So one was the most joy and the most stressful in tandem. And then the other one was allowing me to be the best person I can be because they challenge me each and every day in a good way. Oh my goodness. And then now they're coming in to encourage and support our kids to be their best self. And parenting to me is building resilient children and teaching them spiritual principles to live in this world. Thanks for sharing, everybody.
I love that. It makes our next slide look so simple because you, what a great group, definitely have brought it home for us. Some of the words to define some parenting roles are tough, encouraging, playful, some of the things that you have all summed up. Next, I'd like to bring you to the parent's affirmation of imperfection. I love this affirmation. On your screen is only part of it. We will email you the whole affirmation so you have this wonderful reminder. Parenting is imperfect because we're human and we are not born as parents. We will make mistakes. We will lose our cool. We will sometimes look back on conversations with our kids and say, did I really say that? I know I do that all the time. Acknowledging our imperfections as parents does not make us weak or undermine our ability as a parent, but instead can be used as an opportunity to connect with our children and show our own vulnerability. I know I've had to say to my child, I am sorry, I didn't mean to say or act the way I did earlier. I was tired and I want to do better, and I've never parented a 17-year-old boy before. Our children aren't perfect either, and we shouldn't strive for perfection, just better. As we strive for better, we are building character. And to explain this concept of building character, I'd like to give it back to Christine.
Thanks, Maria Rosa. So as we've discussed about what parenting means to us, how do we now help our kids build the character that they need? So Dr. Michael Popkins, during the Active Parenting Workshop, presents the concept of building character. And that's referring, what he talks about is actually, talks about a very large battleship. And that's why I have that image on the slide there. So I've chosen to present it to you because in 1628, Sweden decided to build the largest battleship of the time, and it was called the Wasa. The most important feature of the boat was actually the upper deck of cannons. And as the day of the launch approached, all the people of Stockholm in Sweden went to the edge of the water, and they became very excited because they wanted to see this big battleship sort of leave leave for sea. And they wanted to see it sort of, the mighty ship sail away. And finally the day did arrive, at the time of christening, and the Wasa took out to the sea. But unfortunately it hit a storm, and it wasn't even able to get past farther than a mile away from the edge of land. And the problem wasn't the storm, it actually was the Wasa. It didn't have enough weight in its hull to be able to sort of balance it out. It didn't have enough ballast to counter the weight of that upper row of cannons to be able to stabilize it. And so it simply toppled over and it went down like a stone at the bottom of the sea. So here's an interesting definition of the ballast. It is that which gives you stability to character. So if we use this concept or the word ballast for our children, this is the core value that you can help instill in your kids, the stable character that they will need to make good decisions in life throughout their lives. So when the waves, they get high, as in the sea, and the wind blows hard and strong, they will need to have good, strong ballast. They'll need to have that stability. So if we get to the next slide, thanks, Maria Rosa. So as we want to help our kids ride those waves and brave that storm, we should probably start by defining what is the job of a parent and what its purpose is. So in active parenting, we talk about the purpose that you see there on the screen. So the statement of purpose would be that to protect and to prepare our children to survive and thrive in the society in which they live. And by thrive, we mean to really make the most of life, not just to get by. And we can then ask ourselves, what kind of society do we expect our kids to live in? Well, we live in a high technological, a diverse community, a democratic society. So this leads us to question, how do we best prepare our children to be able to survive and thrive in this kind of an environment, in this kind of society? So this next slide actually talks about how to do that. And we always aim, because we're active parenting workshop, we're actually wanting to explain the different kinds of style and specifically put some emphasis on the active parent. So let's look at different styles. But before we do that, I need to sort of preface again that it's important for us to recognize that we as parents, even if we see ourselves going into one of these styles more often, let's be kind to ourselves. This is not talking about, or we're not wanting anybody to feel that they're taking on the wrong style. We just want people to recognize that sometimes we take these different kinds of styles and the impact they can have on our kids. So each parent has his own unique style of parenting that runs through everything he or she does, from the discipline, how they do that, or how they even communicate with their child. Some parents tend to be a little bit more controlling or autocratic, and we call that style the dictator style, which is the one that you see there on the screen. When a parent takes on this style, then they tend to hold the reins very tightly, and they use a combination of reward and punishment to sort of keep the child within the limits that the parent has set. And so this style is actually illustrated with a closed circle, as you can see on the screen. Others tend to be a little bit more permissive, and we call this style more of a doormat style. And this is where we would let the child to take advantage a little bit more of them. And in this style, we'd be unwilling to say no. We'd pamper the child, and then we maybe have a little bit of difficulty imposing limits and some boundaries. And so we've illustrated this with that squiggly zigzag line that represents freedom without limits. The problem with both the dictator style and the doormat style is that parents tend to be a little bit more reactive and they wait sort of for children to misbehave before they react. And oftentimes when they do react, they tend to do it in an inconsistent way, without really a clear plan of action. So in active parenting, we believe that parents do best if they're able to be proactive, being a leader, have a leadership position within the family unit, and we call that more of an authoritative style of parenting, or the active parent style. And we can illustrate this with the zigzag line within a circle, representing freedom within limits. And this program, will notice that when children are very, very young, that smile is very small with a little bit of a squiggly line in the middle with a little bit of freedom. But as they get older and as they're able to use a little bit more of their prefrontal cortex and it's more developed, they're able to make better decisions, be less impulsive. Then at that point, the circle becomes a little bit larger and there's a little bit more freedom for our children. Okay. So how does that resonate with you, Maria Rosa? Any sort of takeaways there?
I
Oh,
was just thinking about as you were talking, and I know for me, I'm switching between all the styles depending on the moment. For example, I remember being on the phone. My child was much younger, although as they get older, they don't change. They still want your attention as soon as you give it to someone else. And they wanted to talk, and I was on the phone. And I remember being more of a dictator. I'm on the phone, not now. There was no real proactiveness there. And I mean, it's those moments that are just so real, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't know. How about you, Christine? I'm sure that it's resonated with you too.
well, yeah, there's lots of moments. But I do one thing to mention that just thinking back, a lot of it is actually, I remember growing up as a child in a family where dad had maybe more that style of a dictator style, containing a lot of rules. That was really important. And so that impact it had on me as a child growing up. And then my mom being a little bit more of a doormat style where she would try to soften up what was going on at home, and so had the other style, and the impact that had, and both were quite inconsistent in their in some of the home life and what was going on there. So I could see that as I'm growing up, I would take some of those styles without even realizing, because those are the experiences I had as a young child. And so without realizing, I would tend to maybe use those styles with my own kids. So I don't know if there was anything else, Maria Rosa, you wanted to add before I move on?
A couple of times I thought about when I was a doormat myself, and same thing, right? Just really tired depending on the day. And I'd switch from being this dictator to a doormat and just sort of letting a little bit more freedom with their choices, so I can get things done. There was three of them, and I'm sure we've all been there when you're outnumbered and you just kind of go, all right, fine, and then it's always so much harder then you got to switch back to the dictator to rein them back in. So this is kind of where we sit, and why I guess the active parent can be something that is a bit more suitable in terms of just how we approach our children.
Yeah, so I think that's great. What you've touched on is the different styles. So sometimes we can pick up. What's great to notice is that we observe that we can take on a multitude of styles depending on the mood, depending on the situation. And I think the goal of the workshop is really to be able to recognize those styles in us when we use them, and then try to aim towards being in most often in that active parenting sort of approach. So if we move along to the next slide. Active parenting really tries to identify then 5 different qualities of character. And if you can sort of just imagine having your child sort of grow up and become an adult one day, you want to be able to have them, become independent, be able to sort of to sort of leave on their own ship and go to open sea on their own. So they need to have that ballast and the qualities of character. These 5 here that I've listed here are actually the foundational qualities that Dr. Popkins has identified. And these are the qualities that help them to survive and thrive. And when we talk about character, this means having courage to do the right thing, even when you could get away with doing the wrong thing, or when doing the right thing may cause you to lose something that you want. So as an example, many people in our society have a tendency just to obey the law because they fear punishment. As an example, some people will not go over the speed limit because they're afraid the police may catch them. That's the reason they use, instead of shifting and thinking more of not wanting to exceed the speed limit because you want to be safe for your surrounding. So when you're just wanting to obey the rules because you're fearing punishment, that finally is not courage, that's fear. So if we go through the 5 different qualities, if we talk of courage, it is the confidence to take a known risk for a known purpose. Self-esteem is having a positive opinion of oneself. Responsibility is the ability to make decisions and accept the outcome of these decisions. Cooperation is working together with others towards a common goal. And respect is the attitude that you have to oneself and others that are worthy of holding high esteem. So when you have these 5 qualities, they help children have that ballast. So that stability to be able to keep that ship sort of standing strong and upright. So tonight we're going to be actually focusing on these qualities of character, but mostly courage. And I'm going to pass it over to Maria Rosa that's going to be starting to talk about that topic.
Thank you, Christine. Courage, the confidence to take a known risk for a known purpose. It is the foundation for character. Why? Well, the other 4 key qualities that Christine just shared only involve some degree of risk. For example, responsibility requires that you risk the consequences of your choices. Cooperation means risking the chance that others might take advantage of you. One needs courage to build and strengthen the other 4 traits. If you remember them: respect, responsibility, cooperation, and self-esteem. Courage is taken from the French word cour. So it makes sense that courage is at the heart of human potential. Now just think about that for a moment. It is the confidence we have in ourselves that says there is a reasonable chance to succeed if we take a risk. And even more important, that if we fail, it isn't the end of the world. So I'm the one who poses the questions, I guess, tonight. So I have another question for you all. Using the chat feature, please share some ideas with us on what do we need to have within ourselves to have courage. And I'll just give you guys a few minutes and just think about your day and even parenting or outside of parenting, and what kinds of things do you need to tap into in order to have the courage to take risks and go about your day. And if there's any comments, Darlene, or questions, please share.
Sorry, we're getting some in. We have inner strength. We have mental wellness. And we have space to share my voice. Belief in our abilities. Some great stuff here. Mental wellness and strength again. Humility. It's a great one. Humility. That's it. Beautiful words. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, again, it's so you can see just even from your own ideas that a high and positive opinion of yourself it would mean you have to have high self-esteem. So in order to tap into your courage, it does require you to have a bit more of what we call self-esteem. So let's talk about self-esteem for a moment. Self-esteem is particularly unstable during childhood. One day you think you're really great, and the next you might feel worthless. Self-esteem can be affected by many external factors while a child is growing up. And if you have teenagers, you know that self-esteem can be even more unstable during those critical years. The events in a person's life can be a stressor. They affect the way you think, feel, and behave, or in this case, do, and how courage and self-esteem fit into that picture. I know that sounds like a lot to take in, so I'm going to have Christine explain a bit about what the think, feel, do cycle is.
Yeah, so what's important to understand is actually the impact that our thinking can have on our feelings and the way that we behave. And so most importantly, how self-esteem and courage fits into the picture. So if we look at the think, feel, do cycle that you have on the screen, we can start to understand how events can start the think, feel, do cycle in our child, and how we can have an impact on the outcome of the cycle. All of us have an internal think, feel, do cycle, and it works pretty much the same for adults as it does for kids. So let's say your child is misbehaving in some way and you feel angry about it. It often feels like the event, your child misbehaving, causes your feelings. However, the events don't cause the feeling, it's our thinking about the event that causes the feelings. So that's to say that the event acts as a stressor that results in the feeling. But the feelings are based on our values and our beliefs and other things we've learned. So our feelings are based on our thinking. So for instance, when I became angry because my child misbehaved, maybe it was my underlying belief. And the one that I could maybe think of is something like, maybe I felt that my child should always be listening to me because I'm the adult. Maybe that's the underlying belief I had. So if I keep this way of thinking, of course I would be angry towards my child. That's the feeling that I would feel. But if I shifted my belief and I changed it to maybe a different one, where I would be saying, well, let's say I changed my belief to my child is a bundle of energy and he needs to burn it off on occasion. Or maybe if I shifted my belief as to think, my child is still pretty young and doesn't have that prefrontal cortex yet very well developed. So of course, not able to sort of rein it in like I am able to rein it in. So if I shifted my belief to think in that particular way, then of course my feeling would change. I would feel maybe a little bit more compassion, understanding of my child. So we can see just by that example that if you shift your thought, your feeling can shift, and then your action will shift. That would mean that you'll maybe talk differently to your child if you have that understanding feeling and that compassionate feeling. So that's really easy to say. And I know that's really challenging when you're in the moment and you've got, kids jump. I had 4 kids. So when they were very young, they were jumping off the sofas and getting into all sorts of stuff. And I'm trying to make dinner. And so it's very hard to sort of keep that belief, in check. But it's really important to understand that how I can maybe by shifting it a little bit, I can have an impact on my child and how they're feeling. So what I'm going to ask Maria Rosa to do is to sort of prepare a video. And this video is perfect at being able to sort of describe that think, feel, do cycle, and also to show how we can influence that our child's think, feel, do cycle by the way that we think and the way that we think and communicate that to our kids. We need the volume.
Look at what a mess you've made.
As a kid, sometimes it feels like you can never do anything right. And as parents, we all want our children to develop the character to make good choices and do the right thing. But often our efforts to push them in that direction don't work the way we hope. Choosing to do what's right sometimes takes a lot of courage. We saw an example of this earlier when Daniel lacked the courage he needed to walk away from Ethan's taunts. Instead, he let Ethan trigger his anger. He got into a fight. He got into trouble. Where do kids get the courage they need to avoid getting triggered into bad behavior? Or to choose positive behavior that may be difficult or even risky? They get it over time from experiences that are encouraging, that confirm they are lovable, capable individuals who can make significant contributions to any group they belong to. Let's look at this through the think, feel, do cycle. During the think step of the cycle, people not only process the events in their lives and the consequences of their behavior, they also think about and form opinions about themselves. The opinion a person has of himself is called self-esteem. Kids who have high self-esteem develop a feeling of courage that leads them to pursue their goals in positive ways and have the character to do the right thing even under stress or when they could get away with doing the wrong thing. This sort of behavior often produces positive results and encouragement from others. In other words, success. And that in turn leads to higher self-esteem and more courage. This is what we call a success cycle. As the saying goes, nothing succeeds like success. And kids who get into such cycles find that even their failures can become learning experiences that do not stop them from growing. But the opposite can also occur. Children with lower self-esteem may lack the courage and character to stand up and do what is right when under stress or when they think they can get away with doing the wrong thing. Their negative behavior often leads to failure and disapproval, resulting in lower self-esteem and more discouragement, and the cycle continues. This is a failure cycle, and like the baby chick in the opening scene, kids who get caught up in this kind of cycle may feel like they never do anything right. Our role as parents is to help our kids break out of failure cycles and get into success cycles. We want to become encouraging events in their lives, building their self-esteem, courage, and character while helping them develop the beliefs and attitudes they need to encourage themselves. But before we can become active encouragers for our children, first we must learn to avoid discouraging them. Although few parents set out to discourage, our attitudes and words often damage our kids' self-esteem and courage. Rather than motivating them to do better as we hope, we may have the opposite effect, unintentionally pushing them further into a failure cycle. So it's crucial that we become more aware of how we discourage our children and learn to catch ourselves first. Although the worst forms of discouragement are neglect and abuse, both physical and emotional abuse, we are going to focus on 4 less obvious pitfalls and see how we can turn each of them into a method of encouragement. Instead of overprotecting and pampering our children, we can stimulate their independence by teaching them to do things for themselves. Instead of focusing on their mistakes and weaknesses, we can build on their strengths and successes. Instead of expecting too little, we can show confidence in our children, and instead of expecting too much from them, we can learn to value our children for who they are.
So what's important to recognize in the think, feel, do cycle is even if our children are the ones who control how they think, feel, and do, parents can actually influence them at almost any point of that cycle, that think, feel, do cycle. So the video also presents how, as parents, we can become encouraging events in our children's lives and avoid being discouraging events. And the video shows 4 ways that parents may be discouraging influences and how parents can shift towards being encouraging influences. So for instance, on the next slide, if we focus on mistakes, instead of focusing on mistakes, we build on strengths. Instead of expecting too little, we show confidence in their abilities. Instead of expecting too much, we value the child as is. And instead of overprotecting and pampering, we stimulate their independence. So one of the ways we can encourage our children is in our actions and the language that we use. Also the nonverbals, our tone of voice, if we smirk, that kind of thing too. So there's a fantastic Adlerian psychologist by the name of Rudolf Dreikurs, and I love his quote. And he says, children need encouragement like plants need water. I thought that was kind of cool. I thought I'd bring it up. And the next slide is actually, on this slide, we've put some examples of encouraging words and we can give to our kids. Thanks for helping your sister tie her shoes. I love your energy. I admire that you kept trying, even when it's hard. So it's important though, if we're using these kinds of words of encouragement, that we be specific when we talk to our kids about things, that we're sincere when we give them encouragement so that they feel that it's really genuine, that it really means something. If not, they can sense it. So Maria Rosa will now describe an example that we have pulled from active parenting that helps parents to sort of use an encouragement activity with their kids.
So one of the drivers of high self-esteem comes from encouragement. And we've seen lots of examples and, the video and such. Part of the active parenting program is the weekly activities that are given to help reinforce the concepts you've learned. So we thought to introduce an example of a family enrichment activity. I'd like to introduce our last video of the evening where you'll be invited to take this activity home to your family, give it a try, see how it works. And we thought this would be a really good opportunity for you to see what one of these videos look like. You'll see this at the end of each session, as it's called, the family enrichment activity. So I'll just get that up for you guys. I will say that my team used lots of words of encouragement for me when I was learning to do all of this technical stuff. So it goes a long way, guys.
This week's family enrichment activity is a special one for me. I discovered it a number of years ago when I was a Sunday school teacher and was searching for a way to let my students know how I felt about them and the time we'd shared together. As they left for summer vacation, I gave them each a letter in which I spoke of the progress I'd seen during the year and the personal qualities that I admired. I didn't think much more about these letters of encouragement, as I now call them, until 4 years later, when a woman came up to me after a wedding reception. She introduced herself as the mother of one of the children from that Sunday school class. She said, "You know that letter you wrote them that year? Well, my daughter, Alice, still has hers pinned to her bulletin board." Putting something in writing continues to speak louder than words in our society. Whether you type it up in an email or do it the old-fashioned way and write it longhand on paper, if you want your encouragement to really be remembered, try writing each of your children a letter of encouragement this week. Just keep a few simple tips in mind. Write about improvement, not perfection. Share how they contribute to others. Be honest. Don't say they've improved when they haven't, and be specific. If you have young children, you might read your letter aloud to them or record it and give it to them to play. And don't worry if they don't put your letter on the bulletin board, or even if they don't seem to appreciate the letter outwardly. Just know that they'll carry it with them in their hearts.
Mommy, look what I found. A letter. Who is it from? You want me to read it to you? It says, "Dear Nicholas, I thought a lot about you today and how many things you are learning to do for yourself. You are doing such a good job picking out what clothes to wear in the morning and dressing yourself. It makes me happy and proud to see you learning what you like and what you don't like and starting to make choices for yourself. Another thing I like is how you use that smart mind of yours to learn new things at school. You will learn more and more things as you grow, and I know you will put that knowledge to good use. But one thing I hope you already know is how much your father and I love you and how thankful we are that you're in our lives. I love you, Mommy." It's from you. It's from me.
Dear Daniel, I just wanted to tell you how proud I am of how hard you have worked on your basketball game. You've really put in the effort, and now you're not only making layups, but you're shooting much better all around. You keep practicing, and you'll be beating me pretty soon. Anyway, just wanted to let you know I've enjoyed being your personal coach. Love, Dad.
Hey, Daniel. I noticed you don't stink as much at basketball anymore. Thanks. I think. Want to play some horse? I don't know. Come on, I promise not to be such a jerk this time. Besides, we gotta show him who's boss at the next neighborhood game. Well, in that case... Try that. Whoa, where'd you learn that?
So that video, as I attempt to multitask, really illustrates what that particular activity is for that week. So you'll notice when you're taking the program, one thing I'd like to point out is that in the videos, the stories of these families, you follow them through. So what you saw there at the very end, where he shot a basketball hoop in, through this session, you see how Dad encourages him versus discourages him. So it really illustrates very well, by the time you see your family enrichment activity, the concepts that you've learned. And so you start to understand who the family members are. And that's why I was kind of giggling, because the boy who was saying, "So you don't stink anymore," was actually bullying him in one of the videos. So you tend to leave active parenting with like these little relationships that have built throughout the sessions, which is something that I found very valuable when I was a participant, because I didn't feel like it was just random. There was actual stories behind all of these little scenarios, which makes the videos really enjoyable. Some of them are really silly. Some of them are, this one almost made me cry because it's just, you see the genuine facial expression of receiving that encouraging letter. So using the chat feature, how do you encourage each other? It could be, again, your kids, your partner. Is there anything that you'd like to share?
I'd like to share something.
Mona.
Yeah, I watched, and this video almost made me cry also. So I debated whether to come on or not come on, or come on or not come on. But it's true. I actually have seen it firsthand myself recently. So I haven't done the active parenting, but just started using more strength-based language and kind of trying to be more positive and approach things with more encouragement and take it from a different perspective, kind of like what Christine was talking about. And I saw a huge difference. So for example, with my kids now with online school and learning, right? And them saying, I can't do it, and sort of giving the encouragement day by day and saying, you can do this. I see how hard you're working and so on. And then just slowly seeing it pay off. And then when they finally see it pay off themselves, just how rewarding that is, and then you getting maybe a little thank you at the end of it. So I just wanted to throw that in there as my little story of encouragement.
That's great, because encouraging is not just encouraging, it's catching them being good too, right? It's catching them in the act, not just getting them there.
Well,
I'm
and
sure, Darlene, you've got, oh, sorry, Mona, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, and I was going to say, and there's before and after the change in, so there you start to encourage before, and then, so there's, that goes one way, and then they do it, and then it's the after, the, the well done, and the, so I'm so proud of you, and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have some thoughts here in the chat. We have words of affirmation and praises throughout the day. And then through acts of kindness. And then one other, I give positive encouragement when my child feels down. Sometimes giving examples from the past also helps.
Mm-hmm. I like that one, because you're bringing it home to the child, right? Like you're reminding them just of where they were and where they are. That's a good one.
Can I share mine too? I'm going to put myself on camera this time. Okay, there I am. I always love to share this one in the active parenting sessions, because it just is so near and dear to me. So a number of years ago, I started writing. I am always the one that's up on New Year's Eve. Always. I see the sun come up. I get very reflective on that particular evening. And a number of years ago, when my kids were really small, I started writing them letters. I did a retrospective look of the past year and just really highlighting all their successes and how different things have happened throughout the year. And I've kept them in a box for them. They're aware of it. As of yet, they've not looked at any of the letters, but it's certainly there for them to take a look at when they want to, and it's available to them. So they've sifted through it, but I don't think they've read through all, 14 years of them. But it's definitely a memory there, and just capturing, those pieces that we sometimes forget in everyday life. And yeah, just a wonderful memory to be able to share for them too.
Thank you. That's a lovely idea. I love that.
Sorry, Maria Rosa, I've also got, sometimes we can even use a small reward system as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's another one that just came in.
That's a good idea, especially if your children are motivated by small rewards. And there's nothing wrong with rewarding behavior. There's a lot of opinions on that, and rewarding behavior that's expected. But when they're learning, I have always had the idea that, how do they know this is expected, right? It's they realize it's expected once you encourage them and once you praise them. Up until that moment, they are just behaving. So sometimes rewards go a long way. It helped me potty train my children. So, stickers, are you kidding? I've never seen kids get so excited over stickers. I still go through the Dollarama and wish I could buy a pack of stickers just to say, please do your dishes, you get a sticker. So don't knock that system. If it works, it works. Is there any other ideas or thoughts that you'd like to share before we conclude this part of our presentation? In the meantime, this does conclude this part of our presentation, and we'd like to know if you have any questions, more so about the content of what you've learned this evening, maybe any thoughts on what you've learned here, some of the concepts of encouragement, discouragement, before we move on to talk about the actual 6-week session. And I don't know if this is a good opportunity, maybe if we'd like to, and I'll leave this up to the participants, if you'd like to unmute yourself or take yourself off video, perhaps we could stop recording for your own privacy.